week, we are going to get into styling our applications with Bootstrap. But before I get into what we're doing this week, I wanted to point out that we do have a CIT industry night out at Sara Lee. It is this month, and it's a Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30. And if you want more information, there is a link to a PDF. And this would count towards your professional development and social networking. So if you attend the event, you just come in here, click on an activity, and give me a little summary of what you learned and, what you thought of the event. And then you will get your 10 points. Moving on to responsive web apps and formatting our MVC projects with Bootstrap. So this is chapter 3, and MVC is not using the most current version of Bootstrap. MVC is using Bootstrap 4 and not Bootstrap 5. So that's the first thing I want to point out. The navigation bars are completely different, and how you code them is completely different. So we're going to be reviewing what's in Bootstrap 4, because out of the box, that is what your app is created with. And a lot of the code that you see in the layout view is Bootstrap code, and it works perfectly. So, if it's not broken, we're not going to worry about fixing it. So, this starts out with how to update your client-side libraries, which would be Bootstrap, jQuery, also how to add libraries. There are some features in Bootstrap that require Popper.js, and by default, that is not in our project. So we cover how to add that. And anytime you change or add a client-side library, there's a library manager called libman, and you will actually see the libman file. It's a JSON file. You will see that file display in your project once you do an update. So we talk about how to add and update your libraries, and then you get a little practice doing that. So you're going to start with your future value app and making some adjustments to that. Then we talk specifically about Bootstrap 4 and different features in that, and how do you incorporate those features into your pages. And it does have a built-in grid system that is pretty easy to use. For those of you that are not familiar with Bootstrap, it's just basically a CSS library or framework. And what they've done is they've taken a series of CSS commands and properties and kind of rolled them into a class. So if you remember creating your own classes with several different CSS commands and values, that's basically what Bootstrap did. And then they gave classes different names. So in order for you to use Bootstrap, you need to become familiar with what the different classes do. Okay? And all it is adding those classes into your code. And with Bootstrap, you will notice that an awful lot of classes are added using a div tag. And that is just a convention they've used. You can put the classes in any tag, but you will notice, especially in the MVC project, they've added them through divs. So we basically go through kind of everything you wanted to know about formatting in Bootstrap in one easy lesson. And then you'll notice that after we talk about things, how they do colors and images and all that cool stuff, then we do have hands-on for you guys to practice. And there are graphics that I'm going to be having you guys download. And there is code that you have to enter. And so for this one, you kind of have to enter the top portion. And then if you're tired of typing, I'm giving you the rest. So it's in a text file that you can copy. If you choose to type everything, there was a little typo in the book. I don't know if they fixed it, but this yellow line is the one that had the problem. So you want to make sure that you enter it correctly. Okay, so you'll just kind of work your way through here. I mean, you learn about pretty much everything, and then we apply what you learn in the hands-on. Okay, we even cover icons. So we look at Font Awesome, but we also look at the Google icons. Now, how do you get those different icons into your pages? And then you're actually required to put some in. Then we get into the wonderful nav menus, and I do like the nav menus a lot in Bootstrap. They're very clean looking. And finally, we get down here where you're going to add a navigation bar. And so, I mean, if you have code, existing code that is using the same version of Bootstrap, and that is the key because the navigation bar code is different in different versions. But if you have an app that you love the formatting and you're using that same version of Bootstrap, then you can easily copy the layout page. I mean, obviously you can go in and highlight and press Control-C, but another way to copy, and this works really well in MVC, is you have both of them open and you can simply drag any of the views from one app to another. And then you can customize them. And knowing this little trick will probably save you guys some time. I mean, you could probably do that with models as well, but I would not do that with controllers. Okay. But with views, especially layout view, where there's so much formatting, it is kind of helpful. But you do need to go in and then customize, because obviously if we're taking something from the detective agency and putting it into future value, the titles are going to be wrong. The menu headings are going to be wrong. So there's editing that needs to take place. Okay. And then finally, you are going to start on your term project. And you're not going to do a whole lot of work on it yet, but you are going to create the app. And when you create it, it's very important that you turn the authentication on, because there is a built-in authentication system that we will be learning more about later in the semester. But in order for you to use it, you have to select it when you create the project. So this system is pretty good, and it is not easy to write your own. I've tried it. So using what they have works well. So make sure you turn that on when you create your project. Okay, and then your structure should look similar to my example. And you're going to add the popper.js to the project. And this example that I have, you can actually download and you can run if you want to. I updated Twitter in that, or Twitter Bootstrap, to 4.5.2. So if you do download this and run it, just be aware that this is a little newer version of Bootstrap, but it is still Bootstrap 4. Okay. So if anytime it starts with a 4 and a dot, it is version 4 that we're working with. So 4.5.2 is what I created mine with. If you would like to leave yours at 4.3.1, go ahead, not a problem. But you are going to have to add Popper.js. And so these are just the different requirements. It's things that we have been doing in this lesson. And that's pretty much the assignment. And you are going to want to add all three to repositories. You're going to create repositories for each one on GitHub. And then for future value and detective agency, you'll have to update what's there. And for your own app, you're going to have to push it up there. So if you need help with any of that or you have questions, let me know because I am happy to help you. And that is pretty much it for the week. So hopefully you guys will have fun. I actually really enjoy working with Bootstrap. And once you guys get used to it, you can actually incorporate it into any of your web pages. And it lets you pretty quickly format a page that is pretty nice looking. And I can give you an example for an advisory meeting. I created a little web page last year. And I think it took me, I don't know, maybe an hour to put this together. And I used Bootstrap. I mean, and there's nothing else that's going to let you incorporate that kind of styling that quickly. So you can actually generate a pretty decent looking page in not a lot of time. Okay, so that is a big reason to spend some time learning it. If you spend additional time outside of the project working on Bootstrap and learning it, you certainly can add that into an activity for professional development. All you have to do is submit a little summary of how much time you spent. I need the time. I also need what you learned, little summary. And then if you were at a website, give me the URL. That's all I need, and I can give you points. So let me know if you guys have any questions at all, and have an awesome week.